I saw the mistreatment of black women, and that angered me. And I was just like, man, black women are like mistreated so much. And I just want to stop and say, like, my black sisters, like, you are some of the most resilient, beautiful, kind, wisest people that I've ever met. YouTube, what's going on, everybody? My name is Montez, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of Infinite Grace TV, The Journey. The purpose of this channel is to help people navigate through the journey of unpacking self and discovering what it means to be whole. The way that this is achieved is through a method called tapping in. To tap in simply means to show up in safe spaces, fully transparent, fully accountable, persistently pursuing healing. And this is all through the means of being integrated. Growing up in church, I heard a lot of times, hey, pray this away. I'm a huge advocate for praying. I'm also a huge advocate for people pursuing help from a mental health professional. They essentially can help you unpack a lot of trauma and wounds that sometimes can prevent you from being the letter N, which means near the cross. It's because only before the cross of Christ can one come fully broken, fully shattered, receive his infinite grace, and stand fully pieced together. So if you're new to this channel or you're returning to this channel and you have not yet tapped in with your boy, make sure you do me a favor, hit the subscribe button below. Also, like, share, and comment below something that was very helpful in this video, and also share with Pookie and them because I believe someone can really learn a lot. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and hop into today's episode. Man, so today is going to be it's going to be a real one. All right. Today I'm going to be talking about interracial dating or interracial marriage. Now, I'm not married. I'm not even in a relationship, but I was asked a question like, would I date outside of my race? The short answer is yes, I would. I would be open to that. And I'm an advocate for love in general, So if God has called you to marry someone who is outside of your race, then do it and make some beautiful babies and live a life that is pleasing to the Lord, right? I think it became kind of a conversation that sparked up in me after I watched the video. And essentially, I had a lot of fears actually at one point dating outside of my race. So a little backdrop, I grew up in a black context, black mother, black father, went to a black church. And then around my senior year of high school, I left the black church that I was at, and I went to a predominantly white seminary. And it was one of those things because of the proximity that I was in that I just assumed I would marry a white woman. And it was very difficult because the picture that was painted, unfortunately, was like, hey, my family's dysfunctional and they got perfect families. I knew what my family was, and it was a lot of that shame that kind of carried. And I was just like, nah, I don't want to date outside my race. But at the same time, because of where I was just like, well, I got to make an attempt. And I had to change a lot of my perceptions. I had to change a lot. I had to do a lot of unpacking because that just wasn't true. That, hey, my family is dysfunctional and, their family is not. That was a lot of false reality that was painted and that I believed, that I fell victim to believing. And then you take that a lot of what I knew to be true, and it was kind of it was whitewashed in a way, if I could say that very plainly. I went and grew up in a black church with relatively black theology and the black way of doing things. And when I went to this predominantly white school, a lot of the experiences, I felt as if my blackness, and I felt as if the theology that I grew up on, which some was, I ain't gonna hold you, but that's just theology in general. Anybody can get it wrong, and any people do get it wrong. But I felt like the way that I did things and the way that we worshiped and all that stuff was wrong. So a lot of the theology that I had, even when I was going through that year at that school, was like completely changed. And so I assumed, because of where I was, because of the things that I had experienced, that I was gonna marry a white woman. But then I'm also gonna do a video on um, deconstruction. But 2019 came around for me, and I had just went on a date. Now this was one of the first white women I had like went on a date with, and I went on a date, and things didn't happen, right? Or things didn't work out. But then I went to a conference, and that's where my deconstruction phase kind of began. And I was like, nah, I'm about to be blackety black black, and I don't care what anybody says, right? Um, but at the same time, like the Lord really pressed into me like the call that I had because of my unique experience. Growing up in this black context, going to this predominantly white context, like I was called to be a bridge between the two. And so I was just like, man, Lord, I have to be open to marrying outside of my race. But it was difficult because I became very just, I don't know, it was a huge shift for me. So that reality, I was like, it probably won't happen. So then in 2020 or 2021 or so, when George Floyd happened, that's when it really, really cracked for me. Um, and at this point, like I'm a youth pastor at a local church, and I was just asking my mentor. I said, "Bro, like I would feel like a sellout if I would marry outside of my race." And I'm just keeping it a stack. I feared what other people thought, and I feared that I would be a sellout. I feared that I would be looped in with the group of people because it's a fetish. People want to mix babies and different things of that sort. It can be a fetish. And, you know, it's not often talked about, but yeah, it can definitely be a fetish. And I saw the mistreatment of black women, and that like, angered me. And I was just like, man, black women are like mistreated so much. And I just want to stop and say, like, my black sisters, like, you are some of the most resilient, beautiful, kind, wisest people that I've ever met. I'm a product of black women. I'm a product of strong black women. And I will always advocate for my black sisters because I appreciate you all for being who you are. And we hear all of these different conversations that happen about, hey, black women are this or black women are that. And a lot of times black women are misunderstood. They, and I can't speak on behalf of black women, but I will say this. It's almost like, you know, they've been given these circumstances and told to make the best of it. And then when some of the anger and things of that sort show up from the circumstances that they've been given, then it's like, oh, see, we told you. And I just, that breaks my heart. And so out of fear, I was like, no, I'm not gonna marry outside my race. But then the Lord had to do some work in my heart, and he had to show me like, dude, regardless of who you marry, it's not about what people think. It's about you doing my will. It's about you being pleasing to me. So then I changed it from, it changed from, hey, I'm fearful of what people would think and feeling like a sellout and all of that stuff to, nah, I love black women. Now, we also have to add in colorism because that is also a very, very real thing. Colorism it is a harmful thing in black communities, and that stems way back from slavery. It goes all the way back there. So we have to consider as well, like, that is a real thing. And there's another fetish that people don't talk about, and that's this fetish that, like, now the more brown skinned women are less desirable. But whew, God made them brown skinned women the way he did, and he made them good. And so um I've had conversations with, women who were brown skinned, and they shared some of those frustrations. And like, man, some of the most beautiful women. Like, my heart here is like of not just affirm my sisters, but also just to share like the reality and the toxic reality of this time and these conversations, right? So once you add like colorism and the fear and all of these different components, it really kind of like, I don't know, it's very frustrating, so to speak. Like, the fact that I got to jump through all these hoops just to be like, man, I want to marry a black woman. But the reason why, like, I desire to marry within my race is because, like, I just want to. It's not, hey, because I don't value people in other races, right? But it's like, I just genuinely want to. And it is very important for me, for my brown skinned babies or whatever they come out as, right? Because we know all that, but it's very important for them to see me and to see their mother and to see like that they're represented. Because as someone who is biracial, like a lot of people will see that person as a black person. Like, they're not seen as, oh, okay, that's a biracial. No, they're a black body. And I think a lot of times that's forgotten about. But genuinely, I just desire for people to see a healthy black marriage. I desire for people to see a healthy black man, a healthy black woman that are producing healthy black children and to have a non-scandalous, right, non-controversial family. Like, I genuinely desire that. So that's my reason for desiring to marry within my race. It's no longer based out of fear. It's no longer based out of anything else other than like, man, I just really desire um to cultivate a healthy black family. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know some of the things that you may have had to jump over and what your stance is. I will be very down to have a conversation and continue the conversation about this because I think it's a very, very important conversation. Again, I thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Infinite Grace TV, The Journey. My name is Montez, and I'm back out quiet.